Hey there guys, I'm Greg Bridgewater with Undercover RC, Race Bodies and RC Drag Wings. Tonight I'm going to show you guys how I take and mount the DE Racing Street Outlaw drag slicks for drag racing. How I mount them up and what I do to make them work for me, and why I think that they are probably the best all-around RC drag tire. Okay, so these are brand new. Never had them out of the package before. I wanted to start fresh and show everybody what I do and how I do it. And because there's some things about these tires that some guys just don't. The first time you get them, they're not like a normal SC size tire or whatever, because they got, for one, their own wheel that they came out with to run, which is a smaller diameter than your standard SC size tire. They're in between a buggy, or like a 2.2 buggy tire or wheel, and an SC. They're right in the middle. So this is their wheels. This is called the Gambler wheel. The DE Sprint Gambler wheel. These come in packs of 4. These come in packs of 4. The DE Sprint Gambler. And I like that because, you know, I can save a little bit of money and stuff by getting them this way. And for 17 bucks, that's not a bad deal. The DE Street Outlaw tire is $23, I believe, retail. But just about any hobby shop out there online, you can get them for that price. The cool thing about DE is you can talk directly to those guys. That's one thing I like about them. You know, I can get on Facebook. Well, I think we're all on Facebook. And if you're watching this video, you're probably on Facebook. I can get on there and talk to Chris Vieira, who is like the right-hand man to Dave Enstrom. Dave Enstrom is the DE and DE Racing. He has put out a lot of money and time strictly to do one thing, and that's to make, or to deliver us a tire that is probably the best working tire on any surface, no prep wise, and even on prep, that I believe is on the market today. If you do any kind of dirt oval racing, they started off there with this actual tire size, and they came out with their Sprint Gambler rear tires, and they have a front tire also to match it. But they began with the Sprint car rear tires, and from there they put them on the track for the first time in Enid, Oklahoma. I was there. I got to witness it, seen them for the first time. They had a special race. They flew in from California. They handed out the tires to the racers to run in this special race, and they had a really cool event. They honestly and truly care about the racer, and they want to make our experience the best possible experience, period. And the quality control at DE is second to none. They're not real huge company, so they're a little smaller, and their QC is, in my book, tops many other ones that are out there. So coming from their dirt oval background, they have three different compounds. They have the D30, D40, and clay. D30 being, in an industry term, being super soft. And that's what these are. These are a D30. You can see right there on their packaging. Shows it right there as super soft. D40 would be considered a soft. And then clay, they're a clay compound type tire. Now I will tell you this, that you can tell whenever you have all three of them, in front of you, that each one is a different composition, different makeup of the chemicals and stuff that's in the tire to make them different. This here's a clay compound tire. When you first get this thing out of the package, it'll stick to the table. They're amazing. And we run these all the time on the prep track. I do a lot of racing in Texas with RCDRL. I run the clay compound tire there. And from the first time I set it on the track, this is the best tire I've ever seen. The D30s like these, go ahead and open these up. You'll see they put the inserts inside the tire. The 30s are nice and soft, pliable, and we like to use these on no prep primarily. We found that on prep they're just a little bit too sticky, and they tend to get so much traction on the VHT that's on the track, on the prep track, that they try to like fold the tire underneath itself. So when it launches, it physically like folds up like that. So it was too soft, getting too much traction. Went to the clay compound and it was perfect. When you first get them, you'll notice that they are nice and pliable. And this rubber is different than that rubber there altogether. Set this to the side here. So the first thing I do when I get mine, I turn them inside out. So I can get to the little flashing that's here from the machine. I just take with my fingers, just pull that off. You ain't got to cut it or nothing like that with scissors. I mean, this rubber is so sticky it sticks to itself there. I mean, it's crazy. I stick that on the table. You can see it's trying to lift that mat up off the table, or that setup board. Get that stuff off. So what's a D30 on the no prep good for? Usually when your ambient air temperature is about, I don't know, 75 to about 82 degrees, your road's going to be in the neighborhood of probably 90, 95 degrees, depending on the amount of sun exposure it has on it. But when we race a lot on concrete, we don't do a whole lot on asphalt, but we have. So when the temperature's down like that, like in your later fall, even in the late winter, early spring, this 30 comes in, it works great. So the first thing is I get all the flashing. I look the tire over, checking it out, make sure it looks good. I'll flip them back inside out, or right side out. And I got a hole punch here that's I bought for punching holes in tires. And if you're from the off-road world or even dirt oval, you'll see, you know, that's what we do. A lot of it is we put holes in the actual tire itself. You know, I see guys put the hole on the very inside edge of the tread, you know, right, you know, on the back side normally. Me, I like to put my hole or holes in the back sidewall. Now, the first thing you're thinking, why would you poke a hole in your tire? It's going to rip. They do not rip. Maybe if you was to drill it or something, it would have that chance of ripping. But because it's a solid round punch, it makes a nice perfect circle, you know, and no edges there. Anytime you have an edge on something like rubber, plastic or something, it has a tendency to crack or break, or in this case would rip out. So this is perfect for this. I just take my hole punch, and this is the 1/8 inch die, or the 1/8 inch, and you got several ones here to choose from. But I like the 1/8 inch. It's perfect. It's not too big, and I like to put 4 holes in it, and they're across from each other. So when I get done, you see there, it's all the way through. I got 4 holes 90 degrees from each other. And again, I'm putting it on the rear sidewall. This is all you need to do. It don't require any more holes than the 4 I'm sticking in it. Now I got my holes punched. The next thing you're going to want to do is take a look at your wheels. When they mold these wheels, they don't have any kind of vent holes in the wheels. I know my teammate, he doesn't really put vent holes in his wheels all the time. He's ran them with and without. We run bigger ones, we run smaller ones. Again, it seems like what works really good for me is a 1/8 inch hole. And I just put my drill bit right in there. There's a mold line right there, so I know that's going to be a good reference line for what we're going to do. So right there in the middle of the wheel, drill my hole, come to the other mold line, drill another vent hole. So I got 2 1/8 inch vent holes around that rim. And that's all you need on that. So that's all we need there. Their wheels are pretty cool. They're nice and well made. They're made out of a very good, strong material. They don't have a lot of flex in them, which is awesome. If you get a wheel that flexes too much, that's a whole nother set of problems you don't want. These wheels are made strictly for racing and racing only. They're not brittle. I mean, I'm squeezing that pretty good, but they're not brittle. I've never cracked one. Never had any issues out of their wheels. They're perfect. So now we got our wheels done. Our tires got the holes punched in them. So I'm going to show you this part on the insert. You see this has got a nice recessed edge here. on one side. The other side is flat. Now this insert's, you know, I would call it about in terms of closed cell inserts, about a medium firmness. I've felt ones that were, you know, softer, ones that were even harder than this. So when we put everything, we put our insert into the tire, this recessed edge always goes to the rear sidewall, not to the front. I'll stick it in there and I'll squeeze and roll it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that insert centered up into the tire. And you can see there, I check it out. I go around there and make sure it's all even. And all I'm doing here is I'm just test fitting things. This isn't for the final glue or nothing like that. We're just test fitting, and you should be test fitting your tires and stuff before you ever actually start laying glue in them, just to be sure that everything's kosher there. Now I'll say this about these tires, or any other tire for that matter. You should be using glue bands or tire bands whenever you're getting ready to glue your tires, so you can hold that. Those bands will hold these sidewalls, push the tire down, and bring that tire down around, and make sure that bead's tied up against the lip of that wheel. But you can see they just you could almost glue them up without using one, but I would never glue tires without one unless I was in a pinch or something and didn't have nothing else. Same way with the rear. Everything's looking good there. Now, what you want to look at next is, see the crown? You know, almost all your tires are going to have some crown to them. I mean, that's because everything's pushed up. They're brand new. They haven't been broken in yet. Like I said, the foams are brand new. I like to take and put some pressure on my tire and wheel there and just roll it in. Kind of make sure everything's seated nice, and you can see everything's fitting like it should. But some of you might say, well, I don't like that crown. And like I said, this here's a tire I ran. I don't know, I'll probably put 50 passes on this tire. 40, 50, somewhere in that area. And you can see it's got nice wear. And you can see, just because of the, you know, that little bit of crown there, where on this edge here, it's not always contacting or at that edge there. So, but you can see side by side that the used one there has got less crown. Well, how can I make this tire have a little less crown like that one? That's not too hard. So, remember how I talked about the insert having this flat edge here? What's going on is whenever everything gets put together, that flat edge is up in, you know, riding against this edge here, and it's kind of pushing everything up, because when that tire is just sitting there, it's got a nice, you know, pretty flat surface. pretty, you know, hardly any crown at all in it. So after, you know, years of racing and stuff like that, I've raced for 30 years or better. I don't think there's any foams that I've ever just taken the foam and just threw it in the tire without checking it first and seeing if I need to do anything to it. These inserts are a tuning tool. So what I mean by that is they're made with a little crown to them, but you can also modify the insert some to make it do what you need it to do. You know, I've gone as far as spinning these up in a drill with them around the wheel. And sanded the crown out of them too, which you can do, but I don't do that all the time, and I quit doing that after DE came out with these nice, perfect inserts here. So, but one thing I did notice is with that being squared edge right there and not recessed like this, it made that tire put a little, you know, everything came together and bunched up, and it put that little bit of crown in it. So I turn them inside out. A lot of guys got body scissors and stuff laying around. You can do these with body scissors. I like these bigger scissors just for personal preference. I can make longer cuts with them per se. What I do is I cut a 45-degree angle. I'm taking that flat edge and turning it into a chamfered one. You see there? Cut a little 45-degree angle on there. Now I flip that back around inside, you know, right side out again. Now you can see it's got this little recess to it now, kind of similar to this, but you know, it's not exact, you know, it's not just like that. That's molded in. So now let's put it together and see what it looks like. Again, my molded in lip edge always to the back sidewall. Same thing, roll that insert around in there, get that thing centered up in the tire. That's very important. That's a step you don't want to miss. Got to make sure everything's centered and right before you mount the tire on the wheel. And you can feel the insert inside there. You can kind of maneuver it around a little bit. So it's got a little bit less crown to it now. So whenever everything breaks in and wears in, it'll come out flatter like this. So let's compare it to a tire that hasn't had the trimmed edge on it, the 45 cut. Make sure it's all nice and centered up. Just kind of hand fitting the bead there a little bit. Same thing in the back, making sure my tire is down into the bead, the edge of the lip of the rim. And you should be able to see on camera the difference of the two. This near set's a little flatter. And like I said, whenever everything breaks in with this tire, it'll be flat like that. So we got everything like we want. Let me get my glue bands. Now, my glue bands are literally bracelets, believe it or not. You can see that says Donate Life on it. It's no special thing. These are just gel bracelets like kids would wear. You know, you'd see kids wearing these and stuff. That's what I use. Now, I believe Sticky Kicks, if you've ever used their traction compound or additive, that's how I got these here. He sent those with the bottle of it I got one time. But they got the very same kind of band, and that's where I learned about these. You know, ProTech has like oversized rubber bands. These are great for doing the bigger diameter tires. You know, like your SC size tire. Because it puts about the right amount of tension on the tire. And where using one of these makes it's putting a little bit too much, in my opinion, you know, on the tension. And what I do, I put that band right up on the tread surface, about where that sidewall there meets. Now make sure my beads are set and seated. And you can see here, everything's in there nice and perfect. Now this lets, you know, this is going to make sure that whenever I go to glue the tire, everything's going to come back down, and that band's going to hold the right amount of tension on that tire for that bead. Same thing at the back. You can see there's a little gap. You know, the tire's not sitting all the way down in there. It's in the groove, but it's just not pushed all the way down. Now I got a nice, everything's pushed in there right. And they're ready to be glued up. Now, that's all I literally do to my tires. I vent the wheels with an 1/8 inch drill bit. I vent the rear side wall with an 1/8 inch punch. And that's all I did there. And this has got the 45 cut insert. Let's do the other tire now. to match it, for the other insert to match it. Once again, we're going to take that square edge off and we'll chamfer that by turning this inside out and using my scissors. And I'm going to cut that square corner off. Trying to keep it even, the same amount as I go around there. So it's not like super duper critical, but you want it to be even. So then it looks like that when I get done. I'll flip it to the right, right side out. I got that chamfered edge loaded in, chamfered edge to the front. Get everything nice and centered. Just like so. Making sure everything looks right. You can see everything's nice and uniform. I'm working that around. Get that tire pushed in the groove. Roll it on the table.